All right. Steven, hi, my friend. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time and to catch up with you with a chat. Thank you and welcome for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks a lot. It's been a while, indeed.
Yeah, it's been a while. We'll catch up, man. But,
Yeah.
I'm just going to dive right into it. I think, we're living in a moment where perception is constantly hijacking reality online,
Mhm.
in leadership, in relationships, even in how we see ourselves. And today's conversation isn't going to be about being positive or reframing your mindset. It's about why smart, experienced people still misread situation and what it takes to see things as they are, not as we wish they are. Steven Kuhn, my guest today, has been in war zones, boardrooms, and in deeply personal turning points. I want to use his life as kind of a case study for clarity versus self deception. Thanks for being here, buddy. I want to start with the very human question. When in your life were you most convinced you were seeing things clearly and then later realized you were completely wrong?
Well, man, where do I start? I think my whole life. You go through cycles in life where you find clarity and you get excited about it and you run towards it, and you're passing by all the facts as you run toward it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that goes with promotions, that goes with new opportunities. That went with me when I attempted suicide. I was only seeing the things that I wanted to see to support my own personal bias that I had against myself. And so I think it's an ongoing thing that we have to be aware of all the time. I can't say there's one time because there isn't. It's always like even now. We have the movement take America back, and I'm running towards that, trying to keep a global view, but sometimes I just get pulled in because there's so much attention on it.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty good at now at the age of 59
It's hard to
to be
say
able to
out
pull
loud
out.
sometimes, isn't it?
I know, right? I mean, I'll be 60. You can't lie about that anymore, right? It's like you can't say, "Oh, I'm still young." No, you're 60, dude. That's it.
Yeah, but
You know.
60 is the new 40.
Yeah, that's what they say, but my body says otherwise.
Yeah.
But no, um, perception is a person's reality, and that reality is always formed by outside forces. And keeping neutral to yourself and to your true identity is the hardest part. But it's the key factor in staying authentic and coming across as a leader, as an executive, as whoever you are in that moment. To the outside world should always be based on who you really are on the inside. And leadership, they always talk about what is it, what do you do, what are the steps, and here's the books and all this kind of stuff. But leadership is basically how you treat yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's an excellent point. I mean, you're leading yourself. And I think people
Yeah,
often think of leadership as kind of this outside perspective when it could be turned with a mirror internally. And how am I leading my life? How am I leading
yeah.
my own path? And I think there's a lack of pause where people stop and start self-reflecting. It's, hell, we can barely live even in the present moment, let alone looking backwards. It seems like everybody's kind of caught up in their own little devices and everything. And I know you'll
Yeah.
probably get into that, but what I like and want to lean into is because you have an immense amount of wealth and experience and knowledge. Just you've done so many things. You've lived inside these high intensity environments. I mean, the military, leadership, consulting, I mean, environments where getting reality wrong has consequences, sometimes severe consequences. If we were to freeze frame your life at one of those eras, what's a moment where your approach or your perception of reality, let's say, and actual reality were furthest apart?
I would say when I co-founded the Civil Coalition of Germany, which is the largest non-party political organization in Germany, which turned into the AfD, which is the most popular party in Germany right now. So the co-chair, the vice chair of the party is my partner, and her husband is the other partner. So the three of us founded that.
Okay.
And I mean, I busted my butt. This was in 2003 in Germany, in Berlin, and busted my butt. And we got big quick, and we got people supporting us and news all over the world. We put out some videos about the European Union and the debt crisis, and it got shared in like 136 million times, and it just exploded us. And then one day I got an email. There was nothing in the email. There was no subject except for an X, and there was an attachment, which was a PDF, and it wasn't signed by anyone, and it said, "You're CIA. We know you're CIA. You are out of the game. We don't ever want to see you again. Da 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 da. Right? Don't contact us. Don't talk to us." I was like, "What?" talk about feeling betrayed. I spent 3 years in that organization, and I used every contact I had. I had everything. He said, "Look, you have a 7 Series BMW, but you don't even have a job." Of course, I owned 3 cocktail bars. I owned 3 cocktail bars at the time too, and a nightclub. So, it wasn't like I didn't have a job. And they said, "It's just all suspect. You seem to know all the right people. You seem to know the right things." Because what I did for them was, Germans are very dry, very, very structural. And their newsletters would go out, and it was like reading in, like a manual. So I would
Yeah.
add the emotion to it. I trained the team how to talk emotionally, how to tap into people, a little bit of NLP, but not really structured. And they said all of that shows us that you're CIA. So for 6 months, I'm going like, how can they think this? I'm like the first with my mouth. There's no way I can be CIA because I talk about everything, right? And one time I saw the guy on the street, Sven, and I wrote about this in my upcoming book, Incorruptible, about how I said, "Look, get in the car and tell me what the hell is going on." After 6 months, and he said, "I had to do that. Wasn't my choice. There were people that were approaching us, and in order for them to support us, in order for us not to be shut down, I had to show that I had to separate myself from you." I said, "So you sacrificed me for the good of the organization?" He said, "Well, yeah." And that conversation created more trust between us than any trust I've ever had with anyone. And I was like, wow, okay, I get where he's going with this. I understand why he did it. It's so much bigger than me. This
Yeah.
whole it's so much bigger than me. And we are to this day like this. I talk to him, or we text back and forth 20 times a day, 30 times a day. He's an advisor for Victor Orban, Bolsonaro from Brazil when he wasn't in jail, for the Chilean government, for Trump, for Steve Bannon. Like, he advises all of these guys on the conservative side. And he always comes back to me to ask, well, what do you think? How do you think? Da, da, da. So I'm on the pulse of politics because of this guy. But at that moment was a split. And I said, wow, that is on his part. You would, so from the outside, it would look like, oh, he was being, he was
Right.
using me and he cut me
Yeah.
off, but it wasn't. It was like, for the good of the Republic, or Germany, he had to do what he had to do because it's so much bigger than just one person or two people.
Yeah. I
And
mean, go
I
ahead.
didn't forgive him. I didn't forgive him. Matter of fact, when I wrote this in the book, I used his name. And he said, I said, "Are you okay with that?" He goes, "Yeah, I guess." And I'm like, "It's true, man. You got to tell the truth." So, like, I'm outing this whole thing about the CIA, the whole works. That was one time. Another time I'll go through real quick. I was approached when I was living in Zurich, Switzerland, to become a senator in Illinois, right? And I talked to some people that you would know. It was a guy approached me from Chicago. He was an ex alderman, and they got me on Skype with somebody you would know that used to be in the White House, not a president, but somebody else, and a senator and a not a senator, a congressman from Illinois. And it turned out to be that uh, they had offered me the senator position as a Democrat. And I said, "Well, I'm Republican." And they said, "Doesn't matter." I said, "Well, it matters to me." And they said, "Don't worry about it. You'll be a poster boy for the Democratic Party because you're a veteran, you're big, you got a Bronze Star, all this stuff, right? It's like the perfect poster boy." So at first, I was 42 at the time. I was like, "Oh, okay, this could be cool." And then I got into it, and I asked them a question. I said, "Well, what are the issues that I'll be speaking on?" And they said, "What don't you understand about poster boy? We'll take care of all that." I said, "Well, what about the election?" And I said, "What about the election? How do you know I'm going to win?" "Don't worry about it. You'll win." And so I talked to Sven and I said, "Look, dude, this is what's going on. This sounds like fishy as hell." And he said, "Don't do it. They'll own you for the rest of your life." So I turned him down, and man, they went nuts. They said, "We will ruin you for the rest of your life." And for 10 years, nothing worked for me. Nothing. Matter of fact, I went back to the guy's house who recruited me in Zurich. His wife was the CEO of Pfizer in Switzerland. I went back to his house. House was empty. Went to Pfizer. She never existed. Talked to his son, who was a Marine veteran in Hamburg, Germany. Phone was shut off. I used private detectives. I did reverse searches, everything, trying to find these people. Never found them again to this day. Incredible,
The
incredible.
people that wanted to back you for the seat, you couldn't find any of them anymore.
Well, the people in the U.S., yeah, but they were on Skype
Right.
under some weird name. It didn't exist anymore, right? But the people that were in
Wow.
Zurich, Switzerland, trying to get me, and I knew from the very beginning, I was like, he looks like this. He looks like Big Pussy from The Sopranos. That's exactly how he looked, right? Hair back, the whole works. And she was this like
Mm,
sporty girl with tattoos all over. I'm like, how is she the CEO of Pfizer? It just didn't make sense to me, but I believed him because I wanted to believe. So
Yeah.
my perception was, I'm a great guy. They see something in me. Finally, someone who sees something in me want to make me a senator, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Play into the
You
ego.
believe that. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's exactly how corruption starts. And that's, we were talking before the show about how a certain billionaire from America recently said, hey, come, let's meet. And I got a project for you. It'd be great. It's a lot of money. And when someone offers you something like that, doesn't know who you are, doesn't know much about you, never met you, never talked to you, nothing, but is offering you something like this, they want something from you later. Corruption
Yeah.
isn't like, hey, here's $1 million, go do this. It's not like that. They lure you in, they give you accolades, they tell you how important you are, they tell you how appreciated you are. And then when you're in a place of power, in a place of influence, they say, hey, can you do this or that? And you're like, well, no. And they're like, hey, wait a second. Don't you have a job and money and all this stuff from us? You owe us. That's how corruption starts. It isn't like the old cloak and dagger, let's go out and do it. It's not like that. And I've seen it all through my career in politics. And now I've advised the European Parliament, the German Parliament, Croatian Parliament, UK Parliament, world leaders, literally world leaders, royals. I've sat down on tables with all these people and basically lived with them for many years. It's crazy the kind of stuff that goes on up there. So if you're not aware of all of this stuff, and I'm not even talking about what I'm doing. I'm talking about in your business, right? In your corporation, if you're in the executive level or something, there's all kinds of garbage going on around you. And if you're not clear and you're not living by three principles that I live by: honesty, integrity, transparency. Honesty with yourself while you do say and think like you do. And transparency is how you step into the world with that honesty, and it's your ongoing reputation. The byproduct is integrity. Integrity makes you authentic. The authenticity is what people buy into. When you know who you are and you live by HIT, you are certain of your abilities to deploy your genius in any given situation. And that certainty is what people follow. That's what they buy when you sell anything. They're buying your certainty in your product or your service. They're not buying your product or service. I could go, hey, yeah, well, I got this product and it's really cool. Or I could go, this is the one. There is nothing else. Which
Confidence.
one are you going to buy? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if you're not certain of who you are, what your geniuses are in this world, you're going to have a heck of a time, and you're going to be manipulated. You're going to get corrupted. It just happens. Even if it's the small things like, oh, let's let it go. I know he's not supposed to do that, but hey, he does good sales, so I'll let it go. That's planting the seed, brother. I tell you.
You know what's curious? What I find really curious about all that is that, we can kind of play out in our own heads the narrative you must have had playing in your own head from the first
Oh,
example where you felt betrayed, dumped, and then even the one where they're trying, this is too good to be true. What's going on? So
yeah,
there's these narratives, but sooner or later, those narratives, I'm going to call it, crashed up against a character.
yeah.
And somewhere along the journey, you either noticed or didn't notice. I'll let you unpack this for us. But where did you start to see within yourself, no, this is who I am. This is what my boundaries are. This is where the line is drawn. This is my character.
I think I've always known it, but like you said, there's too many outward, things you have to resist. And there's also temptation, will you take the position for 300 grand, even though it's not right, or something's wrong because you want the money? There's so many things. Will you, do things that you typically wouldn't do because there's a reward attached to it? And I think when I really found out about it was when I wrote my book, Unleash Your Humble Alpha,
Yeah.
back in 2000 is when I really solidified it. And that's late in life too. Um, and basically what I did was I took my entire life because people ask me, how did you work for Mick Jagger, Olivia Newton-John, Andrea Bocelli? How did you do that? And I just said, I just walked up to him and talked to him. And they're like, no, there's got to be a way. What did you do? And they said, you got to teach that stuff. I'm like, oh, whatever. So I went and broke down my whole life. It took about a year. And I worked with Lane Balone, who was my co-author at the time, also a client of mine who became an advisor with me. And we coached a lot of people. Very spiritual guy, very great guy. And we started writing this book, and he sort of helped me break it down because I'm just a straightforward kind of guy. So we went and looked at what worked, what didn't, what was up, what was down. We went through everything from my high school days all the way through the military days, all the way through the suicide attempts in my corporate world, all this kind of stuff. And we came up with 5 models in which you can live by to live a life and become an epic leader of who you are, true identity. And in that process is when I really found out, like, that's where HIT actually solidified, because I was teaching HIT for almost 20 years in the corporate world. And that's when it really solidified. That's really who I am. honesty, integrity, transparency, to my own detriment. you know, so I say things sometimes that it's just people are like, well, why would you tell people that? Because I have to. I got to be transparent. I have to be honest. The honesty part isn't about people on the outside. It's about you. Be honest with
Right.
yourself, because when you're honest with yourself, you're automatically honest with others. If you're not honest with yourself and you're trying to be honest with others, they may not know it consciously, but they're going to feel it. They're going to feel something's off, something's not right. He's talking, he's showing, he's posing, putting up a
Yeah.
picture, putting on a uniform, that kind of stuff. And so the hardest part for me was always being honest with myself. Like, dude, why do you want this? Like, why does this look? Just a simple example: you walk into a bar and you see a guy with 3 girls, right? You're thinking like, look at that guy. He's probably, whatever. He's probably gay or something. Someone said something like that, right? Like a macho guy will walk in. That has nothing to do with that guy or those girls. It has everything to do with you,
Yeah.
right? That's the honesty I'm talking about. Why did I act like that? Why don't I like someone that I've never met? Because they're a mirror to something to me that I don't like about myself. Simple.
Did
You
you
know?
do you think before you went through the exercise, because you're talking about that, and I remember going through the journey of writing The Untruth of Kindness. And when you're digging in and when you're doing that exploratory, granular level kind of why, at yourself, it uncovers some things that hit different nerves. I'm assuming in that process, it was uncovering things within you that you just went, fuck, man, that,
Yeah.
wow.
Well, I can tell you what happened was I couldn't do it, and he couldn't do it because we knew each other too well. So I brought in outside forces. I brought in a journalist, an investigative journalist, and said, ask everything, and everything I say, ask about that, and go. And he opened the faucet of memories that I completely had forgotten. I was crying, I was yelling, I was screaming, I was sad, I was depressed this whole time during the interview process, because I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that. That's why that happened. Oh my God. Yeah. And then you see like a chain of events that you totally forgot about because you've either repressed this, suppressed them
Yeah.
or forgot about them on purpose or whatever. And it was quite the ordeal. I think it was about like 40 hours of interview on Zoom. And then we
Yeah.
took that whole transcript, and then the points that I wrote, and we added it together and gave it to an editor, and they made the book out of it. Then I edited it again. She went back, I went back, she went back. It took forever. And it came out, the Unleash Your Humble Alpha, which is actually an amazing book, and it's actually college curriculum in some states in America. Unleash Your Humble
Yeah.
Alpha, and it's still going to this day, and that was 2000. So I think that the self awareness is an understatement. It's actually self honesty that really matters.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I recall, and maybe I think it was Simon Sinek that said, you know, some of the best therapy you could do is sit down and write a book about yourself because it just
About why you are
uncovers.
like you are. I think, and
Yeah.
it's not just about yourself, because a lot of people write books. I did this, I did that. Yeah, but they're
Yeah.
not
Not a
telling anything about who you are, right? Who are
right.
you for real?
Right.
Most people think I'm a CEO, I'm a parent, I'm a dad, I'm a brother. I own a company, I'm an entrepreneur. No, that's what you do. That's not who you
Yeah.
are. Who
Yeah.
are you? So in our book, Humble Alpha, you come up with a two word moniker for who you are, for your true identity. And I remember when I came up with mine, it was called the Powerful Connector. And that's what I came up with. And I said, man, that's actually what I do, isn't it? I'm an advisor, I'm a coach, all this kind of stuff, corporate lead, all this kind of stuff. But basically, I'm just connecting people with themselves, connecting people with their powers, connecting people with other people, projects with money, money with projects. And
Yeah.
so when I said, okay, I'm just going to do this, just that from now on, man, it just everything excelled, everything increased.
Was there a moment when you, I mean, you went, maybe you weren't resisting the true self, but when you saw it, you maybe resisted a little bit, and then you just realized you and fully embraced it. And wow,
You mean
this
after
is
the book or
different.
before the book? You mean after or before?
It could be before and after. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
when that
before,
happened
I
to you.
think I was resisting it because I'm like, well, what's the outside world? What's a connector? What do they do? It's like there's no real title, and you can't really call yourself anything. And I need to have, if I want to get influence, I have to have a title. I have to have Steven Kuhn, corporate executive,
Yeah,
or Steven
label,
Kuhn,
label,
whatever.
label.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And after that, I'm like, hell no, I am who I am, and I'm gonna go out and crush it. And it's funny because I got on stage. I was on stage with Tucker Carlson 2 years ago, not with him, but next to him. I was, I've been on stage at Mind Valley in Tallinn. I took the main stage there, crushed it absolutely, and I was just being me. And everyone says the same thing. They go, "Dude, you're like you are, you're like you are online, like you are here. Like you're just like a normal person." I was on a podcast last night, and he goes, "You make this all sound so easy." I said, "It is easy. Just quit worrying about everybody else around you. Quit worrying about what they tell you to do, how to do it, what to say, how to be, what to wear. Just be you." People appreciate and embrace authenticity of someone who is certain. And that doesn't mean we're, FTA shirt, fuck the army. I'm a disabled veteran. Screw the world. I don't mean that. Or if you
Right.
don't like what I'm saying, piss off or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking
Right.
about just embrace who you are. And I like to say cordial communication is disappearing from our world. And when you communicate, cordially, when you stay calm and don't get emotional and don't get wrapped up in all these emotional back and forth, left, right, blue and red, all this kind of stuff, people take you seriously. And my example is my social media presence. A year ago, a little bit over a year ago, my wife's Ukrainian. Pointing over here because she's over there. My wife's Ukrainian, and when the Brits ended up sending missiles into Ukraine to shoot to Russia, I was like, "What is going on here?" So I made a video, just one video, and Alex Jones shared it. Got like 50 million views. I was like, "Oh shit!" So I didn't do anything. A month later, I made another video, part two. Again, shared it, 35 million views or something. So I said, let me do a video a day. And since February 25, I've been doing a video every single day. I have almost 500 million views across all platforms, over 1 million followers over platforms. And the reason I get a lot of followers is because I talk like this right here. I don't get emotional. I don't take sides. I present the facts as they are. Of course, you can't win with everybody because if I present facts that are pro-Trump, then people hate me for that. And then so what I've found is that the commonality that I have in my thread is cordial communication. I don't swear or cuss or something like that when I'm online like that. And I have a thread of unity through our citizens to take America back, right? Which is what the movement is called. And so I think the lost art of communication, if you take that back and embrace that in our world where everyone else isn't embracing it, it just makes you authentic as itself, if that's who you are, right? Most people, if you're out there and you're like brash and you're being loud, it's because you're compensating for something. I could give a damn what people think about me, right? I stick to my guns, who I am, what I am, how I do what I do. This is who I am. You don't like it, you like it. Big deal. This, the other, I don't care. Right.
Yeah.
And when you have that's power, brother. That's power. That's absolute power because I'm incorruptible in this case. But then you got to look back a little further is you say, how can I be like this? Right? How can I be like this if I'm beholden? And what do you mean by beholden? Well, how about America? 80% of Americans can't get $400 together in an emergency. So it's called weaponized debt. So if you have debt hanging over your head and you speak out, or you say your mind, even if you do it cordially, and you get canceled or fired, you're going to lose your livelihood. So what do? You stay quiet.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. So you got to get financially clear. You got to get rid of your debt. That's book number 2, by the way. Financial freedom, legal ways out of debt. Citizen Servant Leader series is on Amazon. And then you have the same thing. Your body is your vehicle for your mission. If you're not healthy, if you're not eating well, if you're not training or somehow doing some physical training, and of course, pharmaceuticals, yes or no, all this kind of stuff. That's the third book's coming out next week. Health, wellness, and resilience. And then you have, again, information warfare, which we already started talking about, is all of this bombardment of what you're supposed to say, what you're supposed to think, how you're supposed to be, which side are you on? That's all manipulation. So you're not knowing who you are and what your true character is. If you let all of that go and just pretend it's a globe and you're a spectator, right? Your opinion doesn't mean anything to anybody unless they agree with you, right? If it supports their
Right.
bias, if it supports their beliefs, they're going to agree with you. They don't care who you are. They agree with you. So I don't have an opinion on a lot of things as far as if it's right or if it's wrong. This is the information. This is what I think about it. This is what I believe about it, but whatever, and that really comes across positive. I mean, I've been reached out to by so many people. It's ridiculous. And the hard part is we're self-funded because it's a citizen movement. And I've been approached by large people who want to help fund it, but then I would be beholden, just like I told you with the senator position. So, we're going through a subscription model at jointab.us. Sorry, I don't want to plug it, but
No, go ahead.
jointab.us is jointab.us is a website, and that keeps it citizen led. That way someone's like a lot of people sponsor us with like $6 a month, $20 a month, something like that. And that just keeps us real. That allows me to be who I am and not have to bow to a larger force who just gave me $100 million or whatever it is that they do for these platforms. Because we have a syndicated radio show coming on, we have a media room coming on, we got state chapters coming up, we have the entire doctrine being rolled out, we have a certified course by the university. So when someone takes the course as citizen servant leader, they're actually certified. That will be a parallel roster so that you can look at anyone you're voting for. Are they on the tab roster? Have they went through the course? And the cool thing is, if they did, you can read the same book, take the same course, and you're eye to eye with the politicians. I mean, when did that ever happen? This is the first time ever that there's a full platform and a full doctrine that trains citizens. It's incredible. It really is. And it just came to me organically just through the videos, because I'm just talking to people like, hey, we're going to take America back. I'm like, oh, that's a great name. you know?
Well, I think you do. You kind of glaze over some of the things when you're talking about yourself, but I think you need to understand that you are different. Your ability to craft words together and articulate that message and live in the tension within your own mind when you're presenting your thoughts and maybe opinions, or these facts are about this. And I've even watched a few episodes where you've been on TV where you're that third guest and they've got that other party that's supposed to be against you on the other side. And you just calmly hold your own.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering is, you're trying to, because we're talking a little bit about perception and the problem with clarity.
Yeah.
And you are honorably leading an effort that I commend you on, but you're bouncing up against this fog that is difficult to break through at a personal level with people because of their perceptions. Oh, this is a MAGA thing. Oh, this is what, whatever they want to apply a label to.
Yeah.
What are you seeing work as far as getting through the fog to make some type of connection to begin to start the movement in that person's brain?
Well, I don't try. I say right now we're at the low hanging fruit stage where people who agree just come to us. Those who don't agree, they're going to comment. They're going to troll in the comment section. Sometimes I'll respond with a joke or something funny, and other times I'll just ask them a question. And if someone gets too rude, I just block them. And I always say, we don't tolerate rudeness here. We don't tolerate insults here. Either communicate as an adult or move on. That's usually my comment. And it's like, I don't let it weigh me down. I don't let it affect me. I don't let it get me emotionally charged. If something gets me emotionally charged, I'm like, okay, Steven, back off, because this is not who you are. It's not how you're supposed to be. Once you go down that path, it doesn't stop.
Right.
You argue with them, they're not going to stop arguing with you. And of course, someone who's screaming at you online won't change your mind anyway. So why even bother?
No, and you can't change theirs.
No, exactly.
I mean, whoever, ever online changed someone's mind? I don't know.
Yeah, really. Like, I'm sorry. Oh, you know what? You're right. You just called me an asshole. You're right. Actually, I am an asshole, and I was wrong.
It's the biggest confirmation bubble ever created in the world. It's just, and the feed itself, and you kind of touched on this, is how they can manipulate. They'll hit me with something that just gets me going. Then they hit me with something that lightens me up. Then they hit me with something that gets me going again. Then they hit me something that pulls me in. And it's like they just know. Maybe the algorithm knows, but come on,
it is the algorithm. I mean, like for instance, on Twitter or X, I got like 71,000 followers in the last 4 months or something. And I just one time I looked for some AI information. The next day, that's all I had on my feed. I couldn't even find any news anymore. It was all AI this, AI that, AI that. I was like, Jesus, where's the news? So yeah, it absolutely does, and it's always going to look at what you're looking at, and it will support that.
Yeah.
So if you're biased, want to say hi? Let's say hi. You can meet my wife. Have the audience meet my wife. This is Olga, my wife from Ukraine. There she is.
Hello.
Hi, Olga.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise, nice to meet you too.
She's the driving force behind me, keeps me sane.
Good.
Yeah.
Good job. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, we are doing.
Where you guys going?
Okay, we are going to piano.
Okay.
Okay, nice to meet you. Bye.
See ya. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So I have no patience for people who just post because they're frustrated. I understand why they do it. I understand why they're frustrated, because no one listens to them because they're yelling at you. I'm not going to listen to somebody who's yelling at me. Like, dude, carry on, man.
Well, maybe the bleed through, maybe the connection that wipes the fog away is just what you said. It's your authenticity, your approach, your stoicism that you're applying to the whole situation, your, the character. You've got a character that
Dude,
kind of bleeds through. You present
look,
yourself. Well, I mean,
anybody can sit and go, my opinion is mine. I don't need to share it with everybody, right? I might think this, that, or the other, but what's it going to help anyone if I'm talking about it, unless they ask me? And if they ask me, do it cordially, without screaming, without emotion, right? It's the same thing when you show up at a city council meeting and you're screaming at the board. You think they're going to listen to you? They're not. Why would anyone do that? And like, that's the only way, revolution. Sit down. You're not going to pick up a weapon and shoot anybody. Sit down. Stop talking garbage. Seriously, come on. What do you want to change? How can you do it? You do it cordially, calmly, without cussing and swearing and calling names and making people feel stupid. If you want to change something in anything that you do, that's the way to do it. Number one. Number two is you empower the people in the positions of power, to make a decision in a way that they thought it was theirs anyway. You know how that works. You're a sales guy, So you get them to say what you want to say. It's not that hard. It really isn't. And life doesn't have to be hard. Yes, it's a grind. And yes, we all need money. And yes, it's like, gosh, there's always something happening.
Yeah.
But when you control your reality in the moment, you create as you go forward. Like when I have trouble that comes through, I have a lot of trouble sometimes. I have days where I wake up, for my PTSD, I just want to stick a knife in my neck. I'm like, I'm just done, and I just go, well, look, that's you thinking that right now. That's not the reality. What's the reality? Reality is I got an amazing wife. You just saw her. I live in the Mediterranean partially. I'm doing really well. People enjoy what I do. I'm successful. So, hey, good to go. That internal voice that we have, hell, I speak to the mirror sometimes. If I can't get that out of my head, I'll go to the mirror and look right in my eye, into my soul, and be like, you man, you're the man, whatever. It's like I do all that crazy stuff.
But
it works.
There's courage in that, because you're courageous enough to look back and then dig deeper.
Yeah.
How do you, I don't know, maybe in a sentence or two, how can people out there do the same? How can they muscle up the courage to start self-reflection and really start this journey towards true growth and towards truth?
Okay, it's real simple. No one's coming to save you. If you don't do it for yourself, no one else will. Nobody's coming to save you. No one gives a shit. Even your mom, she takes care of herself first. She tries to be selfless, but it doesn't help. Your dad, he tries to be helpful, but he's got his own problems, right? No one's going to save you. No one's going to help you. You have to do it yourself. And it's a real simple thing. It's called habit stacking. If you want to do this, you basically put a sticky note next to your toothbrush if you brush your teeth every morning, and I hope you do. It says, talk to yourself, positive reaffirmment or whatever. I put music on when I take a shower, and I sing and all kind of stuff. And I do not leave that mirror every morning until I'm in a great mood. And that's before I take my kids to school and before I go to the gym, right? So I'm looking at, it's usually 6:30 in the morning, and I'm looking in the mirror and going like, you're going to crush it today. Today's going to be an amazing day, right? It does take discipline. There's also some routines that I go through. One of them is called the 5 scenarios. That takes a lot of discipline. So it takes about 15 minutes every morning. And basically I speak into my phone. I don't write it down anywhere. And I tell 5 different scenarios of my day: body, mind, relationships, and business, and sort of spirituality. And I'll just tell what's going to happen today. And I talk about things that are already happening that haven't happened yet, but I'm speaking as if they did happening. Some people call it manifestation. I just call it 5 scenarios. And you do that for 30 days. I promise you, your life will change. Why? Because every day you can never say the same thing over and over again. You have to add to what you did yesterday, right? You do it morning and at night, 15 minutes each, about 10, 15 minutes each time, and you add to it. So like, for instance, I'll say today, I just built the apartment complex next door, and the people are starting to move in. And tomorrow I'll say, I built a complex next door, people are starting to move in, and now someone wants to buy the plot next to us, and we're going to sell that for X amount. You just keep building on it, building on it, building on it. And you have these long stories, and then the things that didn't really matter filter out, and you find the things that really matter, and that actually, because some of the things are just fictitious, or you think it's be a great idea, but you create the story through the 5 different areas that you talk about that creates your world, and you're painting a picture in your subconscious of what it looks like, right? So I go, we built a house. It's got the yellow walls and the blue carpet or whatever it is, right? It would be ugly as hell, but anyway, yellow walls and blue carpet. And then the next day you're talking about the sofas, and the next day you're talking about the garage and how big it is and what's inside of it. And you start creating this picture of your life that then becomes real. And I can tell you, the guy who told me this is a billionaire. And he's a billionaire. He owns a castle in the UK, lives in a castle with his family. He's Indian, actually, or Pakistani. Sorry, don't mean to mix that up. And 2 years ago, he was with his family and he jumped in front of a truck. And the truck hit him. Didn't even hurt him, but the truck was dented. That's how so hard this guy. I was like, you? He said, yeah. I said, you get $1 billion. He goes, that doesn't mean anything. And then he's the one who told me. I started doing the 5 scenarios and my life changed within 30 days. And he's the one who taught me. So I started doing it and my life changed within 30 days.
That's powerful, man.
Yeah, huge. It's massive. I tell every one of my clients, start doing it, and no one sticks to it.
He's not condoning that you jump in front of vehicles, though. I'm just
no.
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 I'm going to test my belief system. Intention of the universe, I can crush this car. It will bend around me. Nope, that didn't work. See you, honey.
That didn't work.
He didn't believe enough.
That didn't work. No.
Life insurance? No? Okay.
Yeah.
So a big, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was reading, it looks like a big part of your work is pattern recognition, helping people see what's actually in front of them. You kind of went through some examples on how they can change the framing in their mindset, but helping them see the patterns in front of them. When you walk into a room now with founders, leadership, a board, whomever, I'm curious, what like distortions stand out? Like, do you spot the fastest?
Yeah. The loudest people, the most boisterous, loudest people. They're the ones that are trying to be something or become somebody, or trying to get the attention in order to, I don't want to say compensate, but to sort of amplify who they are because they feel unseen, unheard. They feel like they're more important and they need to be able to be speaking. And there's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't. But it dictates how I'm going to react with them. What I'll do when I talk to people like that, like, hey, man, how's it going, man? Looking great. All this kind of stuff. Oh, thank you very much. And I'm like, I like your glasses, by the way. You make it about them, right? And listen, just listen. And after a while, they're going to run out of steam. And then you ask another question, and then you listen. And they're like, man, you're such a great conversationalist. So I asked 2 questions, right? But what it does is it gives me the idea of who they are. What am I reading between the words? What are they actually about? What are they actually saying? What do they want? What do they need? And then I'll offer, be like, look, you just said this, and that. Do you ever think about this? I had a guy from India. He was an American guy from India, and he had this cancer detection machine because like 7 out of 10 women in India get breast cancer.
Yeah.
Right. It's crazy. And we were on this private island in Croatia with 150 entrepreneurs. I have no idea why I was there, but like Vishen Lakhani was there from Mind Valley. Dave Asbury was there, like all these big high level entrepreneurs. And we're just alone on this island. It's small enough where it's only us. And we were there for 4 days.
Different island, folks. Different island.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Dude, here in the U.S., people have lost their minds. Anyway, go on.
Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. No, it wasn't. Now I forget what I was saying. You just threw me off completely.
You're on an island, not that one, with 150 entrepreneurs. You're not sure why you're there.
Yeah. No, I was there. I was invited as an entrepreneur to go there, and these are very high level entrepreneurs. Ron Lynch is there, and I did like $3 billion in sales, and Dave Asbury from Bulletproof. Dave Asbury, the guru guy.
Yeah, Asbury,
and I forget what I was talking about.
He's the longevity guru.
Yeah,
yeah.
And when I was there, I would talk to people all the time, and you could see most of these people, they didn't try to impress you. They didn't give a shit what you thought about them. And they were just who they were. And people are like, oh my God, he's a dog. I'm like, why are you talking about him? Did you know him? No, but look at him. No, and it's just, it was comforting to see that at that level, most people were, I don't want to say level, but at that earnings level, I guess you could say, they're all multimillionaires. I wasn't at the time, and I'm not now either anymore, but I'm blowing all my money on tab, taking my back. And just to see that they're very authentic in who they are, and they can give a shit what you think. Right. Yeah. And it's really cool because the island, they have 3 classes a day, 3 different time periods a day where they have classes from guest speakers like me or whoever, 3 times a day, 3 classes at the same time at 3 different locations. So you had to choose 1 class each time. There was 9 classes to choose from. Yeah. And it was all outside. It was outdoors. It was on like a broken, bombed out building or whatever you're doing. It was amazing. And there was no selling and no pitching. You just gave the information away for free. So you had free information from Dave Asprey, free information from Vishen Lakhani. They weren't selling anything, weren't allowed to sell. So you were getting all of this information from all these people, and they weren't out there. Look at me. They were up there in like flip flops and Ranger shorts or something. No one gave a shit who you were, what you wore.
Kind of a true collaboration of sharing of best practices. It sounds like.
Yeah, look it up. It's called Baby Bathwater Institute. That's the name of the organization. Baby
I think you sent me some information once on that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. So, well, let's reverse that, because I think, I totally agree. The loudest person, but couldn't it also be said the same for the person that's just not saying anything?
Yes, because they're not sure what to say and where they fit in and how they fit in and who they are. The lack of or too much of is typically an indication they don't know who they are. And that's the kind of person that I would actually go to, and like when I walk into a room, I pretty much own it. Not because I'm a badass, but because I don't really have to say anything. I just walk in, look around, walk in. Like I walked into that Tucker Carlson event. There's 3,000 people there in the audience. And I walked in a little bit late with my wife, with Olga. And I'd like to say people were looking at me, but they were probably looking at her.
They were.
I walked in.
I'll bring you down to earth. They were.
And I walked in, and this guy came up to me afterwards, after my speech, and he said, "Man, when you walked in, I knew you were somebody." I was like, "What?" And he told me about his stuff. Ends up, he's my COO now. That was 3 years ago. That guy who came up to me, he's my COO for Taking America Back now. Joshua Danson. He also co-authored from Health, Wellness, and Resilience book. And I said, why did you think that? He goes, I don't know, you just had this presence. And so he said, what is it? And Vishen Lakhani asked me too. He said, every time you walk, everyone listens to you. What is that? And I said, it's presence. He said, well, how do you get presence? I'm like, you're asking me? You're the guy, you're the head of Mind Valley, right? And it's the largest professional development or personal development organization on the planet. And I said, it's real simple. Presence comes from being present, right? In the moment for the people in front of you. And you do that by creating space. It's in the book. Creating space is showing up wholly and fully for the people, the persons in front of you, with no preconceived notions or cookie cutter solutions or an expectation of a specific outcome, right? That's what I do with you right here. That's why this is such a great, fantastic conversation, because I have no expectations. I have no specific outcome in mind. I'm here for you, and that's it, right? For you and your audience. And when you do that everywhere you go, that creates a presence, and that presence amplifies your true identity. Right? That's why when you walk to a room, you're present for the room, amplifying your identity. People are like, who's that? You've seen it. Someone walks into a room and then everybody turns and goes, who's that? Didn't say a word. They just look at him and go, who's that? That's presence.
Totally agree. Not arguing.
But
I think, no, there's no but. Because everything before but wouldn't matter.
Exactly.
You have an amplifying effect to that presence, dude. Whether you see it or not, I know you probably get it, because I remember the first time I met you and you walked in that room and it was like, who the hell is this guy? It's like you have an aura, and you've figured out a way to lean in with all your advantages. You're a big guy, you're tall, you got a great voice, you're articulate. You were dressed just above everyone else in that room, and sharp, and you present yourself well, and you know when to kind of speak, when not to, and you're gracious and you're giving. And it's just, there's more than just presence, because anyone can be present in the moment.
Yeah.
But you reverberate this, I don't know, dude. There's something coming out of you, this energy that people gravitate towards. So there's a force within you. And I'm happy that you're using that to kind of amplify the world in a kind of positive direction.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. But it's because I know who I am. I'm certain of my abilities. I have no fear. I don't care what people think about me. If you accept me, you do. If you don't, you don't. And I'm not going to try to make it better or try to make it tailored to who you are, because then I'm not authentic anymore. And it's more important to me that I'm authentic than it is to anybody else. So that's what matters, right? And I know that has an effect on people, because people love authenticity. So that presence, that aura, whatever it is, that's because I know who I am. I walk into a room, I can own that puppy, because it doesn't matter who I talk to, I'm good. I don't need to impress anybody. I don't need to sell anything. I mean, I might need to sell something, but that's not going to be what I'm focused on, because no expectation of a specific outcome. Remember, I'm there to add value by solving problems. I've said that my whole life: add value and solve problems. the outcome doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the one thing that we can control in our life, and that's our intention. Our intention, my intention of adding value by solving problems. That's my intention. That's what I focus on. I become present, create space, add value by solving problems. And when you do that, people are like, you're gracious. My gosh, how did you know? And you're like, dude, it's nothing. It really isn't. It's no work at all. It's beautiful, actually. When you have no expectations, you're not anxious, you're not worried, you're not trying to manipulate, you're not trying to push and twist and talk and all these, here's a 30-second pitch or whatever, the elevator pitch, and you got to end with a hook and call to action and all that kind of stuff. Yes, online you need to do that because that's how it works, but in person you don't need to do that kind of stuff.
Walk me through a moment that stands out the most in your mind, because you bring up intention, and this is a collision in my life, and I think a lot of people's lives, where the intention you brought to that moment was completely misperceived, and you kind of were left going, whoa.
I think probably before I knew who I was. I can't think of a position. Probably the military was the first one. I remember, I'll never forget it. We went to boot camp, and we were sitting there on the first day, and the drill sergeant was like, anybody have any questions? And I was like, yeah, when do I get to go to airborne school? He's like, you're in an M1 tank. We don't drop M1s out of the airplane, And I was like, damn, I feel like stupid now. So how do I recover from that? And then later we were in the barracks. You know how they polish the floors in the barracks like crazy every morning with car wax, so slippery. And you're in these wool socks. And he comes in the room, he goes, I need a volunteer. And I was like, okay, I can redeem myself, right? So I jumped up, I said, I'll do it. And I slipped and cracked my head on the floor and was like,
oh, this goddamn private.
So I was immediately labeled as the ass kisser, right? You know what I mean? Like, oh, look at this guy. He like cracks his head just to do something. And it's like, man, my intention was good. I asked a question that I believed in, and I tried to help because I wanted to help, because I wanted to prove myself. And you see what happens, right? It was all external. It had nothing to do with my internal, So that's the quickest example I could come up with. I'm sure there's hundreds of them through my life, but I've made some bad mistakes. I've lost everything. I went bankrupt. I mean, there's Jesus, man. There's so many things that I did wrong, but I don't think I'd change that. Maybe one, the suicide attempt, but I wouldn't change anything else.
Let's not say wrong. It's a journey. It's the lessons in the journey of life that got you to where you are today.
Well, I mean,
if you could go back and change anything, you wouldn't be where you are right now.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't change anything except for maybe the suicide part. But even that caught me, because I ended up, after the suicide attempt, I went immediately the next day to a monastery for 8 months. And I lived with the Benedictine monks in the mountains of Austria. And that was amazing. That wouldn't have happened. So, to the outside, it looks like, Jesus, man, Steve's really like done a lot of stupid shit in his life. But, I just keep going, keep trucking. Just keep trucking, as they say.
Well, and maybe this is where you're trying to begin a movement. And
I did begin it, and it is running. We've got over 1 million followers.
Okay. We're trying to expand that movement.
Exactly.
Scale. So, but not damn, but he caught me with a butt. And so I know you come back and forth in the US, and you have there's a comfort culture plague in the entire country, where any truth, like anything that causes a little bit of discomfort, is labeled as harm and ostracized, scapegoated, pushed away immediately. I hate the fact that we're living in this kind of culture, dude, because it diminishes truth. It diminishes the exact conversations that you're talking about needing to have face to face with one another to truly arrive at a deeper connection. You had the courage to confront the old partner. What the fuck? Let's get in the truck, or the car, and have a conversation. And through that conversation came a deeper connection.
Amazing.
Okay. But right now in this country in particular, it seems like it's very difficult to break through the fog. Give us some pointers. If Steven's over here and leading this movement, and he wants to break through this fog and really connect with people, how do you do it?
At a morals level. And so that's what we do. We have honesty, integrity, transparency, moral courage, and accountability as our core principles for TAB. Take American back. That's in the foundation. Everything above that is noise, right? It's your opinions, your thoughts, what you feel, what you're motivated by, what you're triggered by. That's all above that. So I try to stay out of that area. I talk about that, right? And I know that everybody has a moral standard, and their opinions and their thoughts and their triggers use that to confirm their own bias, and then they talk about their principles according to their bias or according to the principles. I'll give you an example. So I got on a plane one time, didn't even realize it. I was wearing blue jeans, a white and blue striped shirt, and a red like sweater, like a cardigan, like not a cardigan, but like a sweater. Looked like a yuppie. And I got on a plane and I said, "Excuse me, I'm sitting here." And this woman looked up. "Oh my God, a Trump supporter." I was like, "What?" She goes, "Red, white, and blue." I was like, "Oh, okay." I laughed. I sat down. She goes, "You conservatives, rah, 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 rah." I didn't even say I'm not conservative or I am conservative. I just listened. And she was going on and on and on. So I asked questions like, "Wait, what happened? Why do you think like that? What makes you think like that?" So we're on this plane. We were going from Budapest to Zurich, Switzerland. And after about 45 minutes, she ran out of steam. I just let her talk. And then I asked her more questions and she asked me a few questions, and I kept it very, personal, cordial, and not anything political or anything. And at the end, she's like, "You're the first conservative that I respect. Like, I could talk to you forever." Like you pretty much did. I didn't tell her that, but you know what I mean? What I didn't do was get into her emotions. I didn't trigger her. I didn't get triggered by her emotions. I didn't want to prove myself right or wrong or prove her wrong. I just listened. And
Right.
the one thing we can do with each other is just listen. And you ask questions, real questions, not questions to get a specific answer so you could attack it, but real questions like, "Okay, so you believe in 17 genders, right? What makes you think that? Like, just as a guy who believes there's only two, what does that mean to you?" And they'll be like, "Well, or like, yeah, but I don't understand. Like, how? Explain it to me like I'm 5. Like, I really want to know." I was on that island I told you about, baby bathwater, and this woman was in front of me, and she said, "May I sit with you for dinner?" Because it was like, common tables. I said, "Sure." And she's like, "Hey, I'm so and so, blah blah blah." I said, "Okay." I was like, "Cool." I said, "Yeah, I'm Steven. I got 2 kids." I said, do you have any kids?" "What would make you assume that I would have kids?" I was like, I just a question. Didn't matter.
What the hell triggered
And
that?
I said, "Excuse me, ma'am." And she goes, "Ma'am?" I was like, is there a hidden camera here or something? Like, what's going on?
Is
I
your
said,
name
I
Karen?
don't. Yeah. And I'm like, "What? I'm on a private island with a lot of entrepreneurs. Where's this coming from?" And she was really mad at me. And I said, "Look, I get it. I get it. You have a way of thinking. I have a way of thinking. We don't need to talk about that. Let's just stay cordial. I'm not sitting with somebody who's racist." I was like, "Now I'm racist as well." I just let it go. I'm like, whatever, And she was going around bad mouthing me. I was kind of, "Hey man, she's talking shit about me." Let her talk. Doesn't matter to me. Because here's the thing: when you know who you are, you're certain of your abilities to deploy your genius in any given situation. You create space for everyone around you. You're present with those around you. People could say whatever they want, but people see the real me when they see me. And it doesn't match what they're saying with who I am. And you can tell when someone's acting. I'm not acting. This is who I am. This is how I talk to everybody I talk to. Doesn't matter who it is. If I talk to President Clinton, which I have, President Bush, which I have, Bush Sr., which I have, it doesn't matter who it is. This is how I talk. This is who I am, period. I don't change. I don't try to be something special. I might speak slower on stage so people understand me better, but that's about it. And when you're like that, no one can have anything on you. They can talk all the trash they want. You've seen it, in the veteran space. Some people were talking trash about me because they couldn't stand that I was just being truthful. I'm like, whatever. Just doesn't. If you don't let it get to you, it won't. They won't get to you, and it won't spread. It won't have any effect on anything.
Well, that's important. I think that the listeners should catch that with first thing they want to do is typically apply a label because we need to fill in the gaps in our minds with some story. And we do that with labels. There, that guy right there. I don't know what it is. Maybe even it's a label from, oh my God, it reminds me of a past ex who fucked with me or messed with my head.
Yeah.
Who knows? You never know. But you're never going to play into that narrative because you're just staying true to yourself in the moment. And you're inquisitive because you're curious. You're asking them questions.
Yeah.
So
real questions, not questions to call them out. Because a lot of people are like, well, Yeah, you know what
I
I mean?
get it.
Like real quick, like honest to God. And that's where you have to let go of that and be honest with yourself again. Like they're saying this. I truly want to know how someone can think like that, but I can't word it like that. How do you think like that? I'm like, hey, explain it to me like I'm 5. Like I honestly, I want to understand. I want to understand how you mean it. You see
Dude,
the difference?
I'm gonna lean into your experience a minute because you're gonna help me through a little bit of struggle. I'm gonna open up and be a little vulnerable here.
Okay.
I released an episode last about my take on how kindness is been weaponized. Really, how it's creating this lonely chapter in a lot of people's lives. And part of that journey I shared with my experience in Iowa, with my wife's family in particular, but with also neighbors, everybody, it seems like a lot of people from here. And I'm curious. I'm a curious guy. I ask questions. I want to get to know people. I want to really, at a deep level, get to know people and connect with them. When you apply the same principles you're applying that you're talking about, and you're not combatively asking questions, you're truly just asking questions to get, but there's no meet me halfway. Nothing but maybe just return to surface level, or nothing. And it's community, it's neighbors, it's family. It's hard to say on one hand, you can say, yeah, that's an audience out here. I can kind of walk away if they're not interested, fine. But on the other hand, when it's a connection, what would you do?
Oh, I have that too. I have that too. I'm at ease wherever I am. You talk to me, you do, you don't. I talk to you. Look, it's on my terms. Real simple. If I ask you questions, you give me answers. I'm fine with that. I don't need you to ask me any questions. I don't care if you ask me questions. I'm just truly interested in you. You know, I'm not going to say it like that. But I'll be like, hey, what's going on, man? What's going on with the business? And I see you're down there doing this. Yes, I am, and I'm doing this. Man, that's fantastic. But I'm going to go get some beer. And just go get some beer. Whatever. It's like you are on your terms. You run your planet. You're you planet, so to say, right, Mister You Planet.
Yeah.
You run your world. You take care of your world. You're happy because you're happy, not because someone else makes you happy. You're content because you're content, not because someone else makes you content. If someone else, if your happiness, your contentness, your stability is dependent on people around you, then you'll never be. You'll always be let down.
Yeah.
And so just yourself, know who you are, know what your abilities are, know your identity, and you stand like an ace every single time. I can give a shit. Like, you know, believe me, I'm in Turkey right now. I don't understand a damn thing anybody's saying. I like it. I like it. You know, I like it a lot because I don't get any of the riffraff, none of the side talk, none of the comments. I don't even care. It's like, man, this is awesome. It's a great training, by the way, to go back to the States, you know, like, yeah, whatever, you know.
Maybe I need to come spend some time in Turkey.
Yeah, well, it is an amazing place to live. It's the safest place I've ever lived, the kindest place I've ever lived. There's no crime, no road rage. I haven't seen a fight in 4 years since I've been here. Not a fight, an argument anywhere on the street, in the store, anywhere. Nothing. Crazy. Oh.
Well, I wasn't screaming, but I wanted to, and I thought, oh no, he wants me to be stoic right now. Control my mindset. Control my. Okay, look in the mirror.
Yeah, that's a great exercise. You know, when you get mad, you're like, what am I actually mad about right now? I'm actually frustrated that I didn't close a deal yesterday, and now I'm frustrated that anything that happens. Okay, so why would I be frustrated with my computer, my wife, or my kids, or whatever? Okay, let's deal with the situation why I'm actually frustrated. Like that takes discipline, man. It really does, and it sometimes it's a pain in the ass because you're like, damn, could I just get a break here? Like, let me be frustrated about something that's in front of me. You know what I mean?
But that's a good point, dude. I mean, yeah, there's clarity sprinkled throughout a lot of things that you touch, a lot of things you focus on. It's almost as if you know how I'm going to focus most of my attention here because that's the best return on my investment. Over here, that's an energy suck. I'm not going to give it over here. Plus, it's not good for them. I'm not adding value to them. I'm not adding value to me. I'm not adding value to the world. So there's this clarity thing that you just have super honed in. That's amazing. I think I'm gathering because I got Humble Alpha. I didn't finish it yet because I always have too many books, and I've had it for a while now. I got to finish that book, but I'm assuming that this clarity theme is kind of bleeding through all your books. Where can people find your books?
Amazon. You can go on Amazon. It's a Citizen Servant Leader series. The first 2 books are out. The 3rd one's coming. 4th and the 5th one is coming. The abridged Constitution is coming. The Declaration of Independence for citizens is coming. There's a lot coming. They just go to Amazon and put my name in there, Steven Eugene Kuhn or Steven Kuhn. You'll find Humble Alpha and all those other books.
That's awesome. If we have you back in 5 years, and what would future Steven say that people still aren't seeing clearly?
In 5 years?
Yeah.
Quit calling me Steven and call me Mr. President. No.
Oh boy.
No.
Oh my God. Was that a first announcement? No. Are we going to look back on this in 28? Is this the first?
No.
I'll help with grassroots movement, man. Come on. I'm in.
No, I don't know. That's a question I've never even heard anyone ask anyone. I think it'll always be like, I think the information warfare will be even worse than it is now. I think the propaganda and the manipulation will be even worse than it is now. I think it's gonna be really, really tough for people to stay authentic to who they are. But just remember, anything out there never matters as much as this in here. If you are key and square with yourself, you'll always be square with the world around you. If you don't try to fit into everything that everyone expects you to fit into, especially if you're in a job, if you're an entrepreneur, it's a little easier. Right? If you're making money on your own, it's a little easier because you dictate your terms. But if you're, in a corporate world, you have to bend in terms. When I was in the corporate world, I ran a company of 3,500 people, 87 locations in 9 countries. Yeah. And that was a tough job. And everyone had to like do certain things. I decided, you know what? I'm just going to do what I do best. I want to be me. I'm going to crush it. And that's what I did. And all of the other directors were like, why does he get to do whatever he wants? He gets to dress like he wants. He gets to do, so I would wear a suit and tie. I was wearing like polos and stuff. And the CEO was like, why are you wearing a suit and tie? So I said, I feel better. It's the way I feel. It's like a uniform for me. I was in the military. I'm used to wearing a uniform. So when I put on a uniform, this is who I am. Right? And I broke every sales record they ever had, every revenue record they had. I had the highest staff retention models. Everyone wanted to work for me, no matter what country I was in. And it was because I was just taking care of me and making sure that I was powerful myself. And all that stuff on the outside, all those other people that tried to fit in, be the best employee, do the right thing and all that stuff and do it the way the boss says it and stuff, they never made it as far as I did. Now, the only way that works is if you're delivering. If you're not delivering, it's not going to work. Because if you say, I'm going to do it on my terms and you don't deliver, then we're like, well, your terms are shit. Right? So I delivered. I over-delivered, like farly over-delivered. And, I remember there was just a funny situation. So we had this big meeting. There was like 180 people there, all the directors, all the managers, general managers, all the way down. I was the European Director of Operations and Development, right? And I came into a big, he was on stage, the CEO was a guy that I trained. He was younger than me because I had left this company 4 times. They kept calling me back, even though I said, I'm not coming back. They gave me more money. I went back as a freelancer and freelancer director. And I came into the room late, all these people, he's on stage. Oh, look at Steven. He's late. What's he got to do? And everybody's like, 20 push-ups, 20 push-ups. He's like, 20. And they said, no, 40, 50, 60, 70. I'm like, shit, 70 push-ups? I'm strong and stuff, but hey, man. So I said, all right, bring it. So I went on stage and I did 70 push-ups. First time in my life I ever did 70 push-ups without stopping. That's because my mind was stronger than my body. I almost passed out and vomited afterwards, but I sat down. This is
volume training. This is completely different. This sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when I sat down, that was the CEO of Europe. The owner was there, Alan Fisher. He was on BBC, CNN all the time. He's like this older guy from the UK who owned the massive corporation. And he said, how did you do that? And I was like, right there. And he stood up and said, this is leadership. That's leadership. Right there. It wasn't because I was a great leader. It wasn't because I showed that you put me up to something, I will achieve it no matter what.
And there's a power in the audience too. You got a bunch of eyeballs on you. That's kind of fuel. Oh shit.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Well, if the CEO's eyes are on you, if his eyes are on you, whatever, of course it is.
Execution.
But that all attributes. But most people wouldn't have been able to do that, even with the eyeballs. And so it sort of humbled me because I'm like, man, it's not really that big of a deal in my eyes. But people always see things like, wow, man, Steve, you did this or you did that, or you worked for them, or you worked for them. Yeah, but for me, it was just another thing, And I think maybe that's one of my powers is that I don't ever see anything as like, oh my God, this is amazing. I don't think like that because I'm thinking like, what's next? Okay, I did it. Now what do I do next? That's why it just never stops.
Yeah,
I've lived in 10 countries, man.
You're reverse engineering the mountain into an ant hill.
Yeah, pretty much.
Where most people see the ant hill and turn it into a mountain.
I like that. It's a good idea.
You
It's a
know,
good,
you're
that's a
kind
good
of
idea.
reverse engineering that. So I think I want to end here because I think it'd be very valuable if for the audience, you kind of maybe crack open the door a little bit or pull open that veil and talk a little bit to the audience about how they can see the information warfare right in front of them because they can't. Many I've tried, many of them just can't
Yeah.
see it.
Okay. If you're triggered, if you're triggered by a video or something you hear or see, whether it's positive or negative, you're being manipulated. That's the easiest way to put it. If you're happy about a video, it's because it's supporting your life view, your vision of your life or what you're living in right now. If you're and it's supporting your bias, by the way. And if you're triggered by something, that's something that you haven't even looked at or don't want to deal with. So you're being manipulated in both ways. If you hear information and you're not triggered one or the other, that's real information. If you're triggered positive, you're triggered negative, you're being manipulated. That's information warfare, no matter what. So that's the easiest way to put it, because it's not one side or the other, it's both sides. It's up top, it's down bottom, it's left, right, front, and center, everywhere. So if you can listen to something and not get triggered, you know you're listening to some real information, or you don't give a shit. One of the two. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's a good, I mean, those are good points, man. So, Steven, thanks, man. Thanks for going beyond any polished version or corporate PR spin. I mean, you're real. And for people who want to go deeper with your work, where's the best place they can find you?
Go to jointab.us. Look at what you can do to join the movement, to support us as well. Go on Amazon, grab the books, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, whatever. I guess the most active one is probably X and Instagram. My name is the same everywhere except for X, Steven Eugene Kuhn. X, it's Steven E. Kuhn because you can't have a long name. And just follow me, interact, write me. I'm very accessible. I had a guy call me, write me the other day on Patreon. I'm on Patreon as well. And he said, I like what you're doing. I'd love to talk. And I'm like, okay. And I called him. He was like, I can't believe you're calling me. I'm like, why wouldn't I? You said you wanted to talk. It's like, do you not want to talk or what?
I
No, but
wasn't
I thought
ready.
you
I
know,
wasn't prepared.
yeah, yeah. He's like, I thought, and this guy now is willing to sponsor us with 6 figures because I
Nice.
reached out to him, and I'm like, great, that's awesome, man. So it's this for me is a culmination of my whole life. Tab has become me, and when I say that, it's so effortless for me. I've written those 5 books and 2 manuals in less than 2 months, right? Effortless, like not even stress at all. And the cool thing about it is when I went on a radio show, Talk America, whatever it was, 500,000 listeners. It's a 20-year-old show. They have 500,000 listeners every day. My episode was the most listened to with the most questions that were submitted of any episode in 20 years. And no one even knew who I was. So that showed me that the method's working, that it's about the movement and not about me. Because citizen servant leadership is about empowering citizens. Everyone wants to make change and actually know how. Because if you look at the talking heads out there, all of the influencers and all that stuff, they're complaining and they have valid complaints, but they're not offering any solutions. This is a solution. It's the first solution for citizens to actually take America back for the people, by the people.
I love it, man. Are you going to be stateside anytime soon doing any tours
Yeah.
over here?
Yeah.
How can we find
we're going? Well, I don't know yet because we're actually setting up a media channel. We're setting up a newsroom. We're setting up state chapters. The whole works. Probably going to be in Florida. We're looking at Boca.
Okay. And if
Boca
people
Raton.
listening want to kind of contribute and find out, that they can find it on that tab.
Jointab.us. Everything you need to do, right? You can start at $6 a month, go all the way up to $100 a month, or $96 a month, whatever. Or if you want to do it, some people do like a one-off, $1,000, $500, $2,000, whatever. And everything helps because I'll tell you what, man, this is expensive. It's expensive doing something like this, man. Holy shit! I never thought. You remember? I never planned this.
No,
it just sort of organically started growing, and next thing you know, I got all these followers and people expecting things of me. And I'm like, okay, well then let me give you some tools, So I started giving them tools. And
dude, I love watching your journey. I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan. I'm excited for where you're going. It's like, and I'm always a little on the edge of my seat and surprised. Like, what's next? What's next? You always got something going. So I love what you're doing right now. I love where your focus is. So keep going, man. You got my full support. And if there's anything I can do over here on this stateside, just let me know, man. So to our
I will.
listeners, if this conversation challenged you or made you think or even made you a little uncomfortable, that's usually what it is supposed to do because we're getting somewhere real. And if you found value in this, share it. Send it to somebody who appreciates kind of honest conversation or somebody who you just want to poke and say, listen to this, man, because it touches you in a way. Maybe it'll touch them. And remember, most of the world right now is running on filtered opinions and rehearsed narratives. We're not. The show doesn't. We're not going to. Thanks for being here. I'm Adam Howland. This is NonFiltered. Steven, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
Hey, man. My pleasure, buddy.
All right.
Been
See
a
you
long
guys on the
time.
next one.